It's time for the visit with the person of high strangeness. We're lucky we still have Kanashibushan with us, and Sherry Ames brought us some roses today, and thank you. You have a rose too, don't you?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Sherry. It's beautiful.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And then we all dressed up. And it's not that we have nowhere to go, because it's our 10-year anniversary, huh?
That's what you told me.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that. But we're going to go out and celebrate. I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll do something to celebrate it.
Isn't it amazing, though, how, I'm going to talk real loud for you here, but isn't it amazing how, even at our age, what do I mean by that? Sometimes I plan some ahead of time and I'm thinking, oh my God, what if I'm not here at that time, you know, because your mind stays the same way, and you don't think that 10 years from now I can't do that because our mind is so alert. And our mind is so alert where we planned the next 10 years, didn't we? So let's talk about you for a minute, Kanashibushan. Give us what you've been doing.
The last 10 years, okay, well.
Loud.
I don't know about 10 years. I can't remember 10 years ago. So I don't know what happened 10 years ago, but the last couple of months I've been traveling. In August I went to Georgia, and I have quite a few children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren in Atlanta, Georgia. And my one daughter was getting married. She had gotten married in January, but she only had 2 people in attendance, and she wanted her family to come, so she planned it for August. And it was a wonderful wedding, but I could write a story on the person who was supposed to do the running of it. You won't believe it. I could go to court. All those judges, they'd be giving me my judgment, okay? It was a wonderful wedding, thanks to our family, but the coordinator was not there. So that was a funny thing. And then after that, about 4 or 5 days later, after the reception and the re-wedding, my daughter's husband had a problem breathing and ended up in the hospital. And so he stayed there till I left, and he stayed about 10 days after I got back, and now he's home. And they still don't know exactly what's wrong with him, but we're praying and for the best. And I had a wonderful time. It was so hot. It was hot, hot. I think sometimes it was 103. And my children love air conditioning, and I catch pneumonia with it. So I had to hide from it, turn it off in the room, put on a sweater wherever I went to the store, because they keep it so very cold. Because 2 years ago when I went there, I almost caught pneumonia because of the air conditioning. I just can't take it. Mm-hmm. So we had a wonderful time, and I got back in September. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up here.
Yesterday, when I picked you up at the bus station, it was 62 degrees, and we were bundled, wasn't we?
It was cold.
Cold, yeah.
It's been very unusual weather. The sun's very hot when it's out, but when it's gone, behind the clouds or gone, it's very cold, and the wind is cold. In fact, they said it was down to 5,000 feet the snow level yesterday.
I saw that, yeah, but it went up again. Early in the day, we had a really good conversation. We talked about, I was telling you when I went to Los Angeles, a woman named Denise Hamilton suggested she would produce some of the shows for us and put us on either cable or a main channel. And one of the things we did while I was there, I had interviews and things, so they could put this 8-minute presentation together and everything. So one of the things is that Denise was a co-producer for the 40-year Motown special. And so we were talking about that, and then we talked about the language that people are using, and the rappers, and you know, some of the things that's going on. And I said to her at the time that did she not agree with me that when we were young, especially the Motown era, that we had our own little language and we indicated things pretty similar to what's going on now? And she said, read it in your windows. We wasn't so blunt and didn't leave anything to the imagination. And then you had a comment that I thought was so interesting. Do you remember what it was?
Well, I think what it was about cussing, cuss words.
That's right.
Because one of the things that I've never approved of and liked were cuss words. I might say the word D once every 10 years, and that's rough for me. But what I was thinking is that one time I had a very bad accident, and I had to learn to talk all over. And I was telling Lillian, I think I recognized that it takes a lot of energy to say consonants, which most cuss words are made out of. And also, I was doing some meditation one day, and it came to me that words are a blend of consonants and vowels. And the vowels are the soft sounds, A, I, O, U, and the consonants are p, k, k. And you can see how you break the air with the words. And I was thinking that probably why I don't like cuss words is first, they're breaking the air around me, and they probably affect my aura, and I feel it. And the consonants soothe, they're soft, and they don't break the words. It's like we, E, I, O, U, and the consonants are p, k. You can hear that energy of air going out, and I think it irritates. And I think when you get a word that has more consonants, which in my field I was taught was male, and the feminine being the vowels, that you get an unbalance. And when you get in unbalance, you get in harmony. And anything that's not harmonious affects people.
And then you talked about your mother.
Oh yes, my mama, she passed at 86, but before she passed, she got dementia. And my mother never cussed. Never. I never heard a cuss word out of my mom, even a D. And then when she got dementia, she started cussing. And when she did that, I was kind of shocked because my mama didn't allow it. She didn't do it for 70 years, and here I hear her cussing, and I just go in total shock. So I asked the doctor, well, what makes my mother cuss now when she never cussed all this time? And he told me that it has something to do with the arthritis she had in her back that extended up to the back of her neck, and inside there is the part of your brain that causes cussing, and hers was damaged. And so I kind of feel when people are really in a cussing mood, there in some way there's a little damage there. It doesn't last. My mother's lasted until death because it was permanent. But I think something happens inside the brain there that triggers emotionally something there. And so I just thought it was interesting that the male-female energy, like we were talking about before, the balance creates peace and harmony, and imbalance creates chaos and all that, and also in speech.
This is probably politically not correct, but next time somebody curses at me, I'm going to say, look, I know you brain damage, right?
For a short time. For a time. That's what I tell my kids now. Oh, you're just brain damaged for a minute.
There you go. That'll settle the whole thing.
Because they usually cuss when they're angry.
Mm-hmm.
People cuss when they're angry.
Well, I find that sometimes, even with a reading,
Mm-hmm.
I soften it up a little bit, but sometimes I use sometimes I use what do you call it, derogative or something. I kind of clean it up a little bit, and I put it there deliberately, and I tell you why. Because the way we curse at each other, all the time. Sometimes when I use it as an emphasis, because if you talk, like it's just like that all the time, And then I put that in there and the mind will say, oh, this is important. You see what I mean? And I use it as an emphasis. And sometimes there's been a time or two, or 10 or 20, where a word like that was really appropriate. Yeah, I have done that.
I can imagine that a word, once in a while,
when it's appropriate. Yeah.
can be appropriate to emphasize.
Yeah.
But I remember asking my granddaughter, who's now 30, but she was about 20, and she's around young men and women. All they do is cuss all day long. The words are cuss words. And I asked her about a certain word to start with a B because that's one of the words we were taught not to say. And I says, how can you stand to let somebody you care about, like a boyfriend or your sister or friend, use that word? And she says, I said, do you know the meaning? You know what? She said, no, I don't know. I said, that's probably why you can let them use it. And I'm wondering how many really know the meanings of the words they use. It's very possible they really don't know. She said, I didn't know when I told her. She said, is that what it means? And
but they are all in the dictionary.
Yeah. A lot of the words are in the dictionary. That doesn't make them, socially correct or even humanly correct. Because anything that you say that really hurts somebody, I think you need to be careful. Whatever words you use. Words are powerful. Mm-hmm. According to the Bible, God spoke and it became. So our words are so powerful.
Oh, Sherry, you said you filmed the predictions for us last year?
Yeah.
Not last year, last week. and when we got done with
I did it last year too.
You did, didn't you? Yeah. And you made a comment, and you do you remember what you said when we were all done? Usually what happens, we tape this. Kanashibushan and I, we have no clue what we said because we getting it from somewhere else. So we put it on the screen so we see what we said, And you made a comment before we ever got to that point. We hadn't seen it at all. And do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I was talking about how both of you in your readings were saying how we needed this love in the world, this love. We had to do things with love. And I totally related to that because, Lillian, I don't know if you remember, but we were having a discussion about the medical establishment and how we agreed that the big thing missing out of that was humanity, starting there. But then I saw this movie, and then it made me remember again when in this movie the thing that was showing what was missing out of here was humanity. And so when you guys were saying about the love and the thing, I was like, yes, that really clicked with me because I'd had, affirmations about that. That's what it is.
When that guy put that hole in my kneecap, he had no love in his heart. That's what you're talking about? Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I have to tell you, Mike, this is the last time you're going to see these glasses. Ebony and I was in the Mojave Desert, and it was 126, and Ebony got sick, my cell phone melted, T-Mobile gave me a razor because of that, and my frame melted, and we can't repair it, so I have new glasses next time. And so you can kind of see which one you like best because my trademark's going to be gone. Yeah. Kanashibushan, you don't wear glasses at all, do you?
Not now. I wore glasses for about 2 years when I was 16, and then something happened to my eyes, I guess, because I haven't worn them since. Mm-hmm. And I'm very thankful I don't have to because I have a tendency to forget keys and things, put them down, and I know with my glasses I probably would have a hard time, finding them just like the remote,
You don't have any problems.
I'll have to say thank you, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, thank you. I have once in a while, if I don't take my calcium, I'll get a cramp. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I have to say I'm just blessed. Just blessed. I can eat what I want. I sleep well. I wake up and I have no pain. Unless it's a cramp because I didn't take my calcium.
And you chop wood.
And I just stacked about 10 wheelbarrows of wood yesterday. or day before yesterday, and I've got about 2 cards I've got to stack, and I want to split about a half a card before October's over.
But you told me something about that you really like to chop the wood. Do you remember what you told me?
Oh, I love it. I love the trees first. I love trees. And so I see that the trees are giving me heat, and I see them as much different than just a tree. And so when I'm chopping the wood, I kind of do a little quiet blessing, thanking the wood for keeping me warm and thanking the universe for keeping me strong enough to cut the tree. I mean, it's a whole process. But I'm really, really so very thankful that I can chop, because it just feels, I don't know, when I'm chopping wood, I chop with my daddy for years, for one thing. We chop wood since I was about 5, okay? So it's just, it's almost a spiritual experience when I chop the wood. It's not just hitting that wood. And it's the whole thing of the tree giving its life to help me stay warm and other people, because I do have oil, but by using wood, I cut my oil bill probably down to a fourth of what it would be. And it's went up so high. So it's a whole spiritual experience and that's why I love doing it. I just love it. I'd rather do it than do my psychic work. It's about on the same level.
Oh man, you must be one wood chopping person.
Oh, I'd be chopping some wood. I do. I just love it. Can't chop as much as I used to, as long, but I can chop as much in a longer space of time. And I just love the feeling of the axe hitting the wood and watching it split and looking at the graining. It's a whole process. My psychiatrist probably would have something to say about that.
Speaking of psychiatrists here, I have something to say to people call me, and you know who you are, and you wake me up, and then you say, I can't find my keys, I can't do this. And no matter what it is, you expect me to be in that realm at all times. I like for you to know that I have shows I put together, I cook, I clean, I do all the other stuff, and I cannot stay in that realm at all times, so please, at least give me a chance to see what it is you want, you know what I mean? And that's the first part. The second part is all the love we have to give you and everything, but there come times we have to stand up for what we believe in, which makes us very radical, huh?
Yeah, I'm called radical a lot, or lost my mind, whatever you want to call it. But that's very true. One thing, I think it's probably through my DNA and through the great-grandmother and them, but my family have a tendency to speak up and speak out, especially after it gets to a point where you just have to. I mean, and hang and to stick with what you believe. If you're wrong and you really believe it, we'll honor that more than you just being wishy-washy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're right, stand up and speak out, because if you don't, who will? Some people can't. And I really feel a responsibility to speak for other people that feel the same way. And it's okay if they don't. They can speak out too. Everybody has a right to speak out, but somebody has to speak for others. And we do, and have done it ever since I was a kid. My mother, in fact, I didn't know she spoke out, but she had the first trial for a black person in Rawson, Washington, when I was a young girl, 13. And that was a first. And she had to speak out. And she won, but it was the first case where a black person had won in Rawson, Washington. And I've been speaking out since, and my sisters have spoke out with the civil rights movement. And somebody's got to speak for others that can't speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so activism then and now is a little different. But as we're taping this, it is September the 20th. And today it is when everybody is in Jenna, Louisiana. Now, if you read my book, and the moral of the story is, there's similar stories about my life. It wasn't Jenna, Louisiana. It was Louisiana, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed, and it's so sad that in the year 2007, people have to march on a little town because they don't have enough brains to tell right from wrong. That's basically what it is, you know. And last year we gave you the predictions. I didn't see as much racial you know, of the things on a racial basis. It was more a people issue. And if nothing else, I'm hoping that Jenna, Louisiana, brings us back to the people issue, because that all that racial stuff, we did that 40 years ago. So, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then the young people, they've never seen nothing like that.
And they haven't only not seen it, they have not only not seen it, they don't understand it. And a lot of them question, well, what, you know, why you feel like that? I mean, they don't realize what, as Afro-Americans, talking about Afro-Americans, what we went through to get where we were, not where we are now because it slid back, but where we were. And so because they didn't go through it, they don't really relate to me talking about, you need to go out and demonstrate peacefully. You need to write your legislators. You need to become active when it comes to certain issues they have about their children in school and being put out because they're young black boys and the others not. And it bothers me, and I keep praying and meditating, knowing everything's perfect, that they will do something, because I can remember we had to walk miles to carry a message because we had no phone. It was only 10 cents. But we didn't have 10 cents to carry a message about a meeting. And they have a computer, they have cell phones, they have all the technology to do what I think we would have done very quickly, and they won't do it at all. So it makes me a little sad because of their apathy, because they're living off of the benefits of what people did a long time ago, so they don't see the need to do anything right now. But their kids are suffering every day. Believe me, I can tell you some stories. Their kids are suffering. Those young black boys are suffering, but just being black.
The man at the school board, he was a Caucasian.
Oh, okay.
And they asked him, you know, how it was allowed to get to that point. To refresh your memory, there was a tree in the schoolyard, and Caucasian children, the white children sat under the tree. The black kid said, well, is it okay if we sit under the tree? And they were told okay. And so they did, and they had some disagreements under the tree there. And then the next day they hung, what do you call those things?
Noose.
They hung noose on the tree. And of course it was found the next morning. And it just escalated from then. And then eventually, fights broke out at stores, and we see a bowling alley or somewhere, and then it carried back to the schoolyard, and that's when the fight broke out, where the 6 black boys hit the Caucasian boy. I think they were still boys.
Yes, young boys.
Young boys, yeah. So. And so anyway, that's how this whole thing started. But this man, when he was asked at the school board, when he was asked how did they let it get like that, and he actually said, well, they thought the nooses were a prank. And we estimated him to be maybe 40. I bet you if you asked him if he knew what that was, he wouldn't. He couldn't tell you any more than a man in the moon.
I think you're very correct about that. I think one of the problems is just racially, even using other people. I know what a noose means to me. And the reason a noose represents pain, sorrow, murders, rapes, because my great-grandparents were hung. Some of them were lynched and hung by those nooses. And when black people see someone put a noose somewhere, they know what it means. Caucasians may not know because they haven't experienced that background historical stuff. But we know, I feel, those young boys knew. Why did they use a noose then if they didn't know? Why didn't they use something else, you know? But they used the noose because they knew what they're doing, and I'm sorry.
Symbolized,
They knew what it symbolized, and I believe they knew what they're doing, and I don't think it was a prank. I think it was sending a message, just like was sent a long time ago, and they own them.
Yeah.
And I know they know it. I don't care what they say on TV. If those young boys were here, I'd talk to them and ask them, what did you really, what message were you really sending? That you need to stay away from that tree. It's our territory. You're black, and if you don't stay, you're going to get hung. That is what those black kids got. And that's what I'd have got at my age. I would have ignored them and went marching. I wouldn't have beat nobody up unless they came and presented something for me to beat them up about now. I'm not going to stand unless somebody beat me. And I just think what bothers me more is the way they dispense the justice there.
Yeah.
The young kids, white kids, were told this is wrong. They were suspended for a short time. But, it's a prank, their parents said. Prank nothing. A prank like that should be held. And then for the black boys that, whatever happened, I don't know how the fight happened or what, they are looking at some time in prison. There's something wrong here. There's just something wrong here.
Now you see, back to the words, I would have said, prank, my derriere.
Mm-hmm.
You see, just to emphasize what we're trying to say. Miss Sherry.
Yes, I think it's a thinking from one generation down to the next, and you got to stop that kind of thinking in its tracks.
Just
I mean,
pass it down.
one of those generations is going to have to stand up and go, you know what? You might think that, but I don't think that's right. They got to wake up.
They got this.
It's like they just continuing what they're mentored.
That's it.
It gets passed down,
I
right?
think that's what happened. Just passed down, honey. They
Mhm.
passed down their anger.
Yep.
But I really believe, and I've meditated on them for years, I think it's caused by fear.
Yeah.
Because I really believe when you get down to the nitty-gritty, there's only fear and love. Love creates all the wonderful things, and fear of any form or fashion, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, creates chaos and stuff. So I think it's fear that causes it, and I think it's passed down through the generations, because I've had to work hard not to allow prejudice to be passed down through me. I had to work at it physically hard. I had to consciously say, no, I'm not, I don't care what happens. I'm not going to be prejudiced. Because I know some that still have it because of what happened to their kids or their uncle. I mean, I've heard some horrible stories about lynchings. That's why noose, sorry young people, a noose means death to us.
Yeah.
It's probably like a swastika means death to a Jewish person.
So if they really didn't realize, then they're not realizing that someone's implanting that in them.
Yes, that's probably unconscious.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, the thing that I'm thinking too is we are so censored at the moment. We are so censored that if the television and radio and schools and what we say is censored, and maybe we're overdoing the sensitivity a little bit occasionally, but then we